Okay. Well, that's good. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Uh, having some good times this week. You know, looking at Hackthebox, and hope your Monday went as well as a Monday can go. Um, for those of you who were watching last night with McDouglas, uh, I thought that was a very good discussion on pretty much everything, including we talked a little bit about the Okta lapsus stuff, which there's been some updates on that. Bill Demercapy. Oh, I said that shit wrong. So had said that he got a hold of the copies of the Mandiant report. No surprise there. The forensics firm used to investigate Sykes and Cytel was Mandiant. And this is the more complete timeline that we seen or heard. They were talking about Table 1 listing the major dates, associated events. So the initial compromise happened fairly quickly. They even have the IP addresses here, so that's kind of cool. But they redacted the system names and which hosts it was. First from this host name logged on to this host name from this host name. So looked like it was an RDP or a VPN type credential issue. There you go. So RDP login by local account name redacted from local to system name redacted. Bing search for Privisks. So immediately they get in. First thing they do is they do a search for privilege escalation tools. So, they don't have any of their own. So they'll be like, oh, crap, what do I do now? How do I get, they're treating this like a CTF or something. So I'm going to go Bing search for a Privesk tool. They downloaded user profile svceop.exe from GitHub. They used the account created on the system. They used an RDP login. They did another Bing search for where Process Explorer existed. Then they downloaded Process Explorer, did a Bing search for Process Hacker, because they obviously don't know the links to those things. So, why keep track of those? Downloaded Process Hacker from, GitHub. Excuse me. They ran Process Hacker, and from what people were saying, yeah, they're using tools that are, not fancy. Doesn't have to be fancy as long as it works. So they were able to terminate FireEye's endpoint agent by just running Process Hacker and killing that. Then they ran Mimikatz, executed Mimikatz on the system, and downloaded the SAM. SAM is one of the Hive files that you can use to crack passwords or gain access to various passwords. So you can actually see them walking down through here and whether or not the escalated privileges moved laterally, establishing a foothold. So yeah, they moved through the network fairly quickly. What's interesting is they knew pretty quickly where things were. First malicious logon by account name at sykes.com. To Office 365. Yep, and then they did some more internal recon. This is the one that's telling though. So there was a spreadsheet created from a carve of LastPass that was on the network. So sorry for that. There we go. And I was just Twitch reminding me that I'm online. So so yeah, apparently somebody, which they should have, it seems like they should have redacted some of these project names and what have you in here. They pulled down from somebody's personal folder an XLS file because, it's too hard to open up LastPass. And so I'm just going to go ahead and make a carve of all of the passwords in my password locker, maybe my team password locker, and store it in a spreadsheet somewhere and call it LastPass, which is great. So this is domain admins at LastPass. Man, can you imagine their face, the elation of the bad guys when they found this XLS spreadsheet? Oh God, so yeah, that would have. I mean, somebody's laughing over that over there in Lapsus land, and it's really sad that that is a thing. There are some good reasons of doing that, but if you're going to make a backup of your okay, slow down, breathe. Of your LastPass account vault, doing it in some other way than a spreadsheet that is unencrypted on your desktop, well, what imagines for your desktop being your computer, is not a good way of doing these things. The only thing I could think of is, and the bad thing is that this is something that one person has done. There's probably others that have done the same thing. And let me see. What I'm trying to figure out. What I'm trying to figure out is why they found it on a website. Could be an internal wiki or something like that potentially, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, then they moved to the tenants admin group. So somebody had maintained their presence. They added themselves to a group for persistence. Malicious email transport rule. That one was pretty good actually. They took all of the mail from the mail server or from certain accounts and forwarded it to their own account. So they would know. This was a way of them being able to know if they've been, if somebody's noticing that something's going on. So, like, hey, we've noticed some weird stuff on your account, and then that person could, reply back, or they could, do something like that. But it allows the bad guys to know if somebody's on to them, and remove, as an early warning system. Last malicious login by account name Sykes365. Yeah, this was very interesting. There's a lot in this. Let me see. So this is the original link here, which I will put in chat. There we go. And then, so yeah, this one here, someone named Costas said, don't know where to start. Endpoint terminated with Process Explorer, Bing search looking for Mimikatz, and it took 2 months response time. Hunting opportunity. Look for discovery commands that include passwords such as dir/s pass, right? That's a good one. Do the same and find passwords on open shares in your environment before the bad guys do, right? Dropping Process Explorer EDR bypasses, right? Yep. That's Hacking LZ, good dude. Yeah, there's a lot of mess up there. If your agent can be disabled to this extent, then it's not an agent anymore. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there, and yeah, I'm not even going to talk about the Oscar stuff, which somebody had posted in our chat during the show last night with Mick Douglas on that. So let me see some of the other messages that came out. Oh no, let's see. Lapsus ransomware. Let's see. Again, investigating. Used the bypass on compromised hosts and downloaded the pre-built version from GitHub. Yeah, privileges. Yeah, user profile service EOP. Let's go see user service profile EOP. They must have found it. I'm not gonna do a huge search for it because I just realized I shouldn't try to, help people who might be watching this find those kinds of tools. But yeah, but yeah, there's tons of stuff, and this is a prime example that you don't need to have, custom built software, custom built, systems. You don't need to find O'Day to be able to use this stuff. I mean, they got in in some way, shape, or form. Either they guessed the password, you know, little regard for OPSEC, but then once they found that XLS file, it was just all over. They were able to pivot through a number of places. My guess is they're using the yes, exactly. Yeah, these are the jokes, folks. Yeah, Laps has finished off their attack by creating malicious email transport rule to forward all mail within Sitel's environment to their own accounts. Yeah. So this person's taking Okta to tasks. They said you knew the attacker of one of your customer support members was compromised in January and you didn't investigate it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, it's unfortunate that the explanations went the way they did, and you know, I'm sure we have not seen the end of this, but I almost can guarantee that there's going to be folks that are going to be asking. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have a late meeting tonight, so I have a hard stop at 5. All right, so Hack the Box. We're working through Hack the Box here. Hope everyone is having, you know, Hawks fam, thanks, you know, on Hale, thank you for being here, appreciate that. I thought I was going to run through time lapse, but then I realized it'd probably just be easier for me to go ahead and finish up the lab that I had here for this system. So I'm going to target clipboard, okay, scroll up. Actually, I don't need to even use a browser window because that would just be counterproductive. And so the thing was, it was like, to get the flag, use curl to download the file returned by download.php in the above server. So we may want to go ahead and run this just to get the URL. Let me see, Control V. Okay. Getting somewhere, I think. Time left 72 minutes. Full screen. All right. Let me reset the box because it shouldn't just be spinning like that all over the place. Target spawn, okay, got 90 minutes left. So I did pay for the Hack the Box just so that, you know, if I use one of one trying to prep for this, then I will not be stuck making things happen here. So so I do appreciate everybody who subscribes and helps out when they can with remuneration, especially if they've learned something today. Let's see, web request. Oh, I need to click on that copy to the clipboard. There we go. Okay, this page is intentionally blank. Using curl should be enough. Okay, well, there you go. So we're gonna open up, not PowerShell, we're gonna open up Bash. All right, so we're gonna curl, and then the web requests for curl. You scroll up to the top, tell you can, capital O, and we'll use a remote file name. You can save index.html. So you use a capital O, and they suggested download PHP. So we will go here, O, capital O. Yeah, there you go. Control V, Control Shift V. Okay, I don't know what all the extra little bits there is, but There we go. HTTP, and then download PHP. All right, so, well, it's taking its sweet time, isn't it? That's not good. Please use curl. Yes, yes. Okay. All right, well, let's Control C and try it without. Let's just see what happens if we try it without the capital O. I'm going to turn on my laptop fan things to make sure that everything is cool. Huh, that is interesting. It's not liking what I want it to do. All right, 167, 172. Oh, 167. Oh, okay, I got it wrong there. There we go, 167.72. Right, 52,221. There we go. Yep, see, that worked. Okay. All right, now we can do the -O. I just got to remember to put the 176 part there. There we go. Now we should be able to go more download.php and see what PHP. All right. So there's the flag. So that didn't take much. You know, download PHP, HTTP. So usually that's a good flag. Control C. Control Shift C. There we go. Give that a shot. Control Shift V and submit. Ding. All right, I got a queue. Awesome. Mark complete next. All right, so HTTPS. In this previous section, we just discussed how HTTP requests are sent and processed. However, one of the significant drawbacks is that all data in HTTP is transferred in clear text. This means anyone between the source and destination can perform a man in the middle. Some people are now starting to call this more host in the middle because, you know, it's not really a man, it's not really a woman, it's not really a thing. It's more of a host. Like, computer has to be in the middle of the connection between A and B to do things like intercept the connections, kind of like how we do with burp. Burp is a thing in the middle of the connection that either simulates or modifies or allows you to do something in the middle of the connection to break a trust in this case. So to counter this issue, HTTP protocol was created in which all communications are transferred in an encrypted format. So even if a third party does intercept the request, they would not be able to extract data out of it. For this reason, HTTPS has become the mainstream scheme for websites on the internet. And HTTP is being phased out. Soon, most browsers will not even allow HTTP websites. It's getting harder. Some websites you can still get to. Some will still give you the warning message. And you can do things like, you know, force it to only use HTTPS everywhere, so it will automatically try, you know, to go HTTPS. We examine an HTTP request. We can see the effect of not enforcing secure comms between a web browser and an application. For example, the following is the content of a login request over HTTP. So the username admin, form ID, password, so everything's sent in the clear, very much like FTP is. When you, back in the day, when you would go to a website or go to a directory and you had an FTP server, all of that data, including the connection strings and the passwords, were sent in the clear. We can see the login credentials can be viewed in clear text. This would make it easy for someone on the same network, such as a public wireless network, to capture the request and reuse credentials for malicious purposes. That's right, which is why we've gone from WEP to WPA to WPA2 to WPA2 AES. Used to be like TKIP was kind of a big thing, but then people realized that there's a way to, it's a bit weaker. So, and then, you can even go to captive portal kind of stuff where you must log in on a proxy server kind of thing to allow access out from the wireless. You would have wireless access on an isolated network until you've gone and logged in, kind of like how you do when go in flight or something. If you're on planes and you do the Wi-Fi, web browser pops up and says, hey, you do agree to not do naughty stuff on the network kind of thing. When you do that, you get a token and you get some kind of authenticator that allows you to operate on the network. We can see login credentials viewed in clear text. This would make it easy for someone on the network, such as public Wi-Fi, to capture the request and reuse credentials. In contrast, when someone intercepts and analyzes traffic from an HTTPS request, they see something like the following. They just see encrypted application data, which is this hashed area, or it sounds like it's a stream. It's a stream. So it looks kind of like junk or whatever. As we see, the data is transferred as a single encrypted stream, which makes it difficult for anyone to capture information such as credentials or any other sensitive data. Websites that enforce HTTPS can be identified through the HTTPS : in their URL, as well as the lock icon. Yeah, okay. I mean, does my browser has a lock icon? Okay, so shows, I don't know if you can see that on the cutout, but it does show academy.hackthebox.com's connection is secure, has a valid cert by a trusted authority. This means information such as passwords or credit cards will be securely sent and cannot be intercepted. In most cases, yes, unless you're using some kind of cipher that allows for that. And then there are tracking cookies that you can, there are tracking cookies there that you can find that are available as well. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, this shows exactly what my Edge browser was showing as well. So if we visit a website that utilizes HTTPS, all traffic would be encrypted. Here's how the flow works. Yeah. And actually, I saw something. What was that? It was the complete TLS 1.3 handshake. It was a graphical representation. There it is. I think that's it. Nope, that's not it. Well, that's actually a pretty good write-up too, if you are interested from a command line perspective. But there was a graphic of it. Maybe that was it. Nope. No, this was a. No, okay. Yep. Oh, except for the damn pop-ups. Sorry. Get off, please. Thank you. Oh, it's like the worst thing ever. All right. So 1.2 shows you the client hello, server hello, server sends certificates, server key exchange, and hello is done. Sends all that back to the site. To the client. The client says, oh, okay, I understand what you can speak. Sends the key exchange, sends cipher specs, and it's finished. And then it, then everything's done at that point, right? And it goes through. Here's the TLS handshake. It's a little less involved. There's a few things that are different, and actually there's actually at the time 1.3 was coming out, there was a somewhat controversial idea of being able to cache the trust on both sides of this. Why, for instance? Well, for folks like Cloudflare that has to make a handshake every time, being able to cache a, hey, I've already seen this server. Oh, hey, it's giving me the same thing as it was the last time. I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to go. It would reduce the amount of data that was being sent back and forth, which reduces the amount of time it takes to make the handshake, which makes the connection a bit more efficient. And so, yeah, folks like Cloudflare and others were wanting, especially if they do a lot of TLS, because time is money, processor power, et cetera, they can do more throughput that way. Good Lord, that was pre-pandemic and then some. So had to have been like 2019, 2018, 2019, somewhere around that time frame. It was at an evening meeting that I used to go to. NCC would do the open forums up here, and one of the speakers was somebody working on the 1.3 requirement. So, all right. So oh yeah, the resumption. There it is. You suck. All right. Yeah, the ORTT resumption. Yes. Means that a client has connected server for, it permits a 0 round trip. That's what RTT is. 0 RTT is 0 round trip ticket. Resumption or trip. Yeah. Storing secret information, typically session ID or tickets of previous sessions, and using them when parties connect with each other in the future. So there's a good and a bad to that, obviously. It's a lack of full forward secrecy. That means if the session keys are compromised, an attacker can decrypt that data sent by the client on the first flight. This can be easily avoided by rotating session keys regularly. So, but yeah, 0 RTT was kind of the big thing that they were trying to get pushed through. All right, so yeah, there's the instructions on the handshake. Browser attempts to go to 80 and then the redirects to 443. This is done by the 301 moved permanently response code, which we'll discuss in the upcoming section. We did a little bit of the error codes and stuff when we did try hack me as well. 300s are like redirectors, or this site is moved, or like the 301 moved permanently. Next, the web browser sends a hello packet giving information about itself. The server replies with a hello, followed by a key exchange to exchange certs. Client verifies the key cert and sends one of its own. After this, the handshake is initiated to confirm the encryption and transfer are working correctly. Depending on circumstances, an attacker may be able to perform a downgrade attack. Yes, that's one of the things. Downgrades HTTPS comms to HTTP, making data transferred in clear text. This is done by setting up a host in the middle or person in the middle or something, or in this case, man in the middle proxy to transfer all traffic through the attacker's host without the user's knowledge. So yeah, curl handles all HTTPS comms and performs a secure handshake that encrypts and decrypts the data automatically. However, if we contact a website with an invalid cert or an outdated one, then curl would by default not proceed with checking the communications against earlier mentioned attacks. You can use the -K. That's one thing to look at. If you have any devices that are, they're like, oh, we use OTA, and we're using an HTTPS website to pull down OTA, and you're like, what's the exact command? And a lot of times what'll happen is they're just running curl, and they put a -K in there. Now, why would they do that? Well, maybe they forget to update their certs, and the certs are invalid. If you didn't put the -K in there for curl, you may not be able to get updates anymore. So the curl actually says, it will skip the certificate check. So it'll say, okay, I still want to use HTTPS, even though this cert might be expired. It is a bit of a problem. So let me see what we got going on there. Not my meeting. No, screw it. All right. Yeah, so there you go. As you can see, the request went through and we receive response data. Yeah, I mean, if you use the -K, it will not check whether or not the cert is valid. It just is happy that there is a cert period, which is often somewhat dangerous. So. HTTP comms consists of a request and response. The request is made by the client, a curl or a browser, and is processed by the server. The requests contain all of the details we require from the server, including the resource, any request data, headers, and options we specify. and many other options we'll discuss throughout this module. Once the server receives the request, it processes the request and responds by sending the response, which contains the response code, as discussed in a later section, and may contain the resource data if the requester has access to it. Yeah. Okay. So the above image shows how a get command works. So we saw some of that. We saw a lot of that in Try Hack Me, where you have your various headers, your PHP session IDs, your key or your cookies, cache control, your HTTP method, where we were moving it from a get to a post and back again, and the location of where the HTML files, the PHP files were, and what version of HTTP it uses. HTTP 1.1 is like the one most everybody uses, but there are HTTP 2, which HTTP 2, it's not new. It is a major revision. I do believe it's a binary protocol. Yeah, it was derived from earlier experimental Spidey protocol, originally developed by Google. It was developed by the HTTP Working Group in 1997. So, yeah. Oh, no, the HTTP 1 was standardized in 1997. Let me see. It was considered proposed standard in 2014, December, published as a proposed standard. Yeah, so these different engineering and security or science groups or steering groups have updated it as of 2015. 47% as of October 21st of the top 10 million websites support it. And, oh, wow, so they're already working on a proposed successor, HTTP 3. So there you go. Yeah, so it has data compression of all the headers. It does pipelining of requests, so you can send the same request over the same pipeline without having yet another HTTPS connection. So it saves a bit on overhead, and there's a bunch of other stuff here. But yeah, this is a good discussion here. If you have any questions, it'll at least get you started on the bit there. So let's see. Okay. I thought that was going to be larger. All right, so response. So once the server processes our request, it sends a response. So you see the version and the response code. So 200 is okay, 300 means redirect, 400 means errors, like file not found or something like that. 404s is the most well-known, and 403 is forbidden, which means like it may exist, but you don't have permissions to access it. 405, I forget what 405 is. I've seen 405. 405, method not allowed, right? So you may try a track or trace kind of thing, which is an HTTP method, and the server may not allow that. So you may get like a 405 method. Yeah. Close that. All right. And of course, the 500 ones are like internal server error or something like that. So, first line contains, two fields separated by spaces, being HTTP version, and denotes the response code. Response code is used to determine the request status. Will be discussed in later section after the first line. Response lists its headers similar to the request. Both request and response headers are discussed in the next section. You see the date, the server that it's running on, your cookie that's been set, when it expires. Some of these other things are probably important. I've just never had to deal with them before. Accepting encoding, content length, that's kind of important. That shows you how big the file is or how much data is being sent back. That way you can often do error checking if you've gotten content length, but you've only got like 960 bits. You might be missing something. Hey Scott, what's up? Handy ref. Oh yes, yeah, okay. That's a good one. HTTP cat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's. Wow, okay. I was like, wow, that almost looks like my cat, especially with the little heart tag, but mine doesn't have heterochromia. So, okay. That's fine. Oh, temporary redirect. Oh, man. Oh, hey, Becky, Becky. Oh my goodness, that's a chunk. That's a chunk right there. What the? I, okay. Oh, that one does not like baths. That reminds me of trying to give mine a bath like 15 years ago. I still have PTSD from that. So, see that win. That's a good sight there, Scott. Well done for you. Good job. Good job. Good job. All right, so in our earlier examples of curl, we specified the URL and got the response body in return. However, curl also allows us to preview the full request and full HTTP response, which can come in very handy when performing web pen tests and writing exploits. So you do a -v, which usually means verbose, right? Add the verbose flag to our earlier commands, and it should print out both the request and response. So yeah, so you see everything that comes up, no delay set, and I think curl actually is it curl or is it wget? Some Linux commands you can set levels of verbosity. -v will give you this, -vv will give you additional bits, and like -vvv will even do like debug signals, or go down really deep into how the application works. So I want to say that's wget with the vvv, but I could be wrong. Let me see. Curl. Man, I do not type good. All right. Okay, so I think curl will do that. www google.com. Or maybe it just allows www, but it doesn't give you any other additional output. So that gives you an example right there of curl google.com. Shows you what's going on, shows you the user agent, so it's using curl. XSS protection is on, same origin for the X frames. And then it shows you, here's your 301 code. 301 moved permanently. So that was when it was asking for the HTTPS, right? Moved permanently is 301, and then it's going to HTTPS, for instance. So, all right. Oh, well, there you go. The VVV shows even more verbose output. I just, again, didn't read all the way down. Try to use this flag to see what extra request response details get displayed with it. All right, well, what happens when you just do -v then? Oh, it's not much different in theory. Yeah, I think it's the exact same stuff. So it's really weird. Maybe that site doesn't have a lot to it, so it's giving you the full output anyway, but yeah. Browser dev tools. We've talked a little bit about this with Try Hack Me. You can go into the network and look at network connections that occur. You get status codes and methods. You can right click and edit and pay, edit and resend. So you can, take a good request, change it from a get to a post and get some answers, or make it do what it's not supposed to do. Try clicking on any of the requests to view their details, then click on the response tab to view the response body. Click on the raw button to view the raw and rendered source code of the response body. You may not always have the same options in your browsers. I think they're using Firefox here for the most part, but like Edge and Chrome may have slightly different UIs for their browser dev tools. So it's just something to keep in mind, that it may not be completely applicable if you're not using Firefox for your connections. All right, so what is the HTTP method used while intercepting the request? Let's go over here. All right, let's go and click on that. I'm going to refresh this screen and see if I can get it to full screen. There we go. That makes it a little easier for everybody to see. All right. So Scott was watching the Oscars last night. He wasn't here when we were interviewing, Mick Douglas. So, but I get it. it's the Oscars, you know, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad. No, I'm not mad. Oh, right, curl should be enough. Yeah. Okay. Let me make the text box a bit bigger. All right, curl. We're gonna go dash V. Control Shift V. Kiddo wanted what? Easy there, easy. Yeah, I'm sure the kiddo wanted to. Yes. It's definitely one where you probably wish you should have, seen that slap heard around the world. But so there we go. You see the output there. So you see the get. So you try running it. Let me see. What is the HTTP method used while intercepting the request? Case sensitive. So it should be GET, which is correct. Send a GET request to the above server and read the response headers to find the version of Apache running on the server. Format x.y.zz. So, all right, we did that. So this is what we're looking for right here by sending a GET request. So we ran that 2.4.41. 2.4.41. Submit. Ding. All right, I got another cube. Yay. I found this. I found this new game, that everybody's playing. It's real cool. It's called Bedazzled or Bejeweled. I don't know if you know it, but I'm just kidding. When it said, "Oh, you got a cube," it reminded me of that. It's like back in the day when you would play those games. You're like, "Oh, you got 500 Oompas," and you're like, "Well, what the hell is an Oompa?" Well, it doesn't matter. You got 500 of them. Okay, great. So headers. There's general headers, entity headers, request headers, response, and security headers. Let's discuss each one of these. General headers are used in both request and response. They're contextual and used to describe the message rather than contents. So the ones you get are the connections, whether it's closed or keep alive, close value. Close value from either the client or the server means they'd like to terminate the connection. Keep alive indicates the connection should remain open to receive more data and input. OreoByte, we are running through some of the academy.hackthebox stuff. So hope. We've got some more people. Glad everybody's here. I'm actually, we're just running through some of this stuff for folks that are interested in running through. I think we're doing. Well, I don't know why HTTP fundamentals, but it was part of the web bug bounty section. So the bug bounty track, if you will. I ended up buying the bug bounty track one just to make sure that I had enough, system or instances to pull down. So, anywho, we're going to talk. We talked about entity headers. They're common to both request and response. They're normally found in responses of posts and puts, so it tells about the content types. Used to describe the type of resource being transmitted. Usually it's text HTML. You might see like data/application plus XML or some weird shit like that sometimes. Media type, if it's a PDF, you're going to download PDFs from legitimate organizations and places like, the Verizon data breach investigation reports or something like that. I've seen this one, boundary. I wasn't exactly sure what those were. So this kind of acts as a marker to separate content when there is more than one in the same message. For example, within form data, the boundary gets used as, I didn't know that. Okay, so it's like a horizontal line or like a spacer or a null space or something that denotes, hey, this is the end of one part of the form data. This is the next part. Did not know that. Okay. Content length holds the size of the entity being passed. This header is necessary as the server uses it. To read data from the message body and is automatically generated by the browser and tools like curl. So there you go. Oh, and the encoding, gzip. I've heard more than one time that gzip or using any kind of compression can potentially cause you issues, but I still have seen it more than once. Let me see, was it? Mm-hmm. I don't see any gzipping on this. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything there. So, oh, okay. So it did shrink back down afterwards. That wasn't just me. All right. Data can undergo multiple transformations before being passed. For example, large amounts of data can be compressed, reduced message size. Type of encoding should be being used should be specified using content encoding header. Request headers, these are used in HTTP requests and not related to the content of the message. So this is the host being queried for a response. This can be a domain name or IP address. Servers configured to host different websites based on the host name. So yeah, like host-based virtualization, virtual hosts. You can do IP-based virtual hosts. The user agent is the client requesting resources. So like you saw that in our response here, where it said, here's the user agent. So we're using curl 7.740. The refer denotes where the current request is coming from. So you might see your IP address in the list here. So yeah, you see that, or you might see something else. Accept describes which media types the client can understand. So that goes back to some of the application / PDF. I don't know why you wouldn't have a web server these days, or a web client that would not understand star.star. Yeah, Scott. I was trying to allude to that. There was compression attacks. I just couldn't remember the name of the attack, but breach is the correct one. Actually, for a while there, I remember. I don't know if it was I was in the government space or what have you. Breach vulnerability. They actually suggested you remove the gzip from like Apache web server to stop your, see, browser reconnaissance and exfiltration via adaptive compression of hypertext. Now, that is yes, somebody was like, well, let's call it breach. Oh, what are we going to call it now? Okay, yeah, and then so they created that. So that was, I want to say that was, how long ago was that? 2000, yeah, 20, okay, so 2013 wasn't that old. So I was working? I was working at, I was working there. Okay. Yeah, so there's a demonstration of Black Hat 2013 on that, and then Heist. So yeah, there's a there you go, for people wanting to take a look at that. And so I mean, gzip's probably not the best way to do things, but at the time it was like, turn that off. You don't want to be using that. People complained that would slow down your connection, but by then most everybody had high-speed internet, so it only really mattered if you were on a slower connection. And so you got your so request headers, user agent, refer, all your cookies, any cookies that get sent by the website, more than one cookie sometimes. You also get things like other values. You might get an authentication cookie. You might get an ad ID, something like that. You might get additional, key pair values that that denote you visited the website, so that other sites can go and look for those things. That's how advertisers do that stuff. You can do things in your browser or in your cookie by only accepting certain cookies, or in your curl by not accepting all those cookies. And then authorization, another method for server to identify clients. After successful auth, the server returns a token unique to the client. Unlike cookies, tokens are stored only on the client side and retrieved by the server per request. There are multiple types of authentication types based on the web server and application you use. So there's a complete list here, which Open that up. Oh, we get to read an RFC. Hey, you're in good company if you're reading RFCs. Woo! Tell you what, nothing says bedtime reading like an RFC. You want to fall asleep. The fun thing is reading like RFCs of stuff you know should work that way, and then you realize that nobody's actually doing it how the RFC says to do it, which is a double-edged sword in this case. Response headers, you get the server that the system is running. You can tell if it's Apache or if it's, you can tell they're running a Windows box by, whether it's a Linux or Debian or Win32 or Mac OS, or you might see Mock. I don't know if you'd see Mock OS. I don't know if it's still a thing. Set cookies, this would be for client authentication or identification. And then, www authenticate notifies the client about the type of authentication required to access the requested source. So basic auth is never good to use. One reason is you can pretty much run a dictionary attack on a website, and as long as it has basic auth, it'll continue to try to make those connections. Noisy as hell, but you can run through several million iterations of a username and a password before you exhaust it. Finally, security headers. Woo! The things that people use that often incorrectly. Content security policy is a good one. They have strict transport security, which is another good one. Those are good, nice to haves. A lot of times you'll get a pen test report with, oh, we don't have a content security policy and it's a high, or something like that, or no strict transport security. So you can tell when a I have only, that is true. I don't think I've not seen them outside of a Nessa scan, but I have seen them on pen test reports. So that may be a good way of knowing if your pen test report was generated using a Vuln scanner. Sometimes if you take the output found in a pen test report and put it into Google, you'll find the same answer pretty much plagiarized from Vuln scan output. Refer policy is another good one. You might see CORS. I think there's a CORS policy header. CORS policy header. Cross-origin sharing. Yeah, you might see. Where is it? What's it look like? No. Yeah, you might see something like this. So yeah, cross origin resource. You might see some of those as well. Allow access or access control, allow origin header. Anything that the resource can be accessed by any origin. That's another header you might see, or So yeah, I mean, you can have as many headers as you want. Matter of fact, some CPFs somebody will put in a -H and put in a special header or something that the server doesn't know what to do with. It's just going to pass it along. And unless it's interpreted by the browser itself, the only way you're going to see it is if you use the web dev tool. But I believe that there's no limit to the types of headers that you can put in. Unless somebody else can school me on that, but I'm pretty sure you can put whatever headers you want in there. There's no limit to what you can do with those. Oh, 1 sec. I'm getting. Cool. Okay. curl. In the previous section, we saw how the V flag shows us full details of the request and response. If we were only interested in seeing the response headers, we could use the -I to send a head request and only display the response headers. Furthermore, we can use the smaller lowercase I flag to display both the headers and the response body. The difference between the two is that capital I sends a head request, which we'll see in the next section, while lowercase I sends any request we specify. And prints the headers as well. So there's the output for that. And it says exercise. Try to go through all the above headers to see whether you recall the uses for each of them. Okay. So that's where the host is. So that's the host you're looking for, like we talked about with virtual hosting. That's the name of the host, the virtual host. The user agent string is the web browser. And the cookies are the cookies it's sending to inlanefreight.com. It will accept any text and plain output. And so the refer is asking it to go to HTTPS, and then it's using basic authorization, which, I'll scroll back up here real quick so that way everybody can see what's going on. It's another method for the server to identify clients. So if you visited this site before, it may be different than a cookie, but it might, let me see, where is it? There it is, right here. It might say, "Oh, I remember you. You came in earlier, you know, and this is the cookie, or this is the value that I gave you earlier," kind of thing. So you get you know, the date coming back, which is good because it's a matter of recon, but sometimes you can do a date, and if the servers are not set up for GMT, so let's say you run a scan on a web server and you find, oh, they're in Central Time Zone or AEST or something like that. You can get a geographical idea, you know, based on the time zones and where the delineations of those time zones are, as to where the server might be located. Why would you want that? If you're planning on doing an attack on something, knowing if, you know, those people are asleep or not, might, I mean, it's obscurity. You know, it's definitely security by obscurity. Because right now, all I see is GMT, which means I don't know if this server or these people who manage this server exist in UK or in Pacific time or what have you. So it only makes it harder by just not knowing what time of day the maintainers of the server or the service is on. Also, having one set time zone for all of your logs makes incident response a lot easier. At least it has been from what I've been talking with folks who do incident response. It's like trying to do the, you know, -5 or whatever for the logs to match them up to GMT is a nightmare. And if you're in the middle of an investigation, you cannot make changes to those log files. So it's like changing, it's like, you know, one team uses metric and one team uses imperial. It is the way. That's right. That's right, Scott. UTC is the way. That's right. But yeah, so those are that's the examples here. So you get to your content encoding, so everything's being gzipped. This tells you the character set you can use. That might also be another way. You know, they may use GMT, but if they're 8859-4, you know, character encoding, ISO 8859-4, that is the Latin alphabet number 4 for Northern European, or Latin 4. So yeah, Northern European covers Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Greenlandic, and Sami or Sami. Okay, so there's a good way of finding things out. If you know that this server, you know, you don't know where the server is necessarily, or who maybe runs the server, you know, or, you know, maybe the domain name is not such, like it's a .com. Okay, so let's say it was a .se or something. That would give you an idea as to what nationality potentially the website is from. So -se, I believe, is .se domain. I don't want to screw that. Sweden, right? Sweden, yeah, Sweden. Okay. For some reason, I CH. That's right. CH is Switzerland. For some reason, I was getting those two mixed up. But you know, so if you're trying to figure out, you know, who might own this server, or where the server might be located, you might also look for things like what kind of character sets they're using. You know, -4. I mean, so you know it's in a Nordic country potentially. It could be or in an area of the Black Sea, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, those areas. Of course, this looks a little old, so they've been superseded by 8859-10 or Unicode. It's not perfect, but it is another way of doing, finding those things out. So, content security policy. Here's your basic realm. It uses www authenticate, strict transport policy, and refer policies origin. So, yeah, and then the cookie values come through too. So, and you can tell when they name value, they expired last year. So, dang. Yeah. Oh, and you're running on a Windows box. So you're running on a Windows box. That again, that's a good security by obscurity thing. You can actually change this. This is not set in stone. You can actually go into your web server config files and change the server tag to, say Apache 8.1.5 or something like that, or Win32, or you could change it to, go away or something like that. These are not set in stone. These variables can be changed. You can make it. You can actually tell it to put something completely different. So, again, security through obscurity, but don't let that be the only security control you have in place. All right, so in addition to viewing headers, curl allows you to set headers based with the H flag, right, as we'll see in a later section. Some headers like user agent and cookie have their own flags. For example, we use A to set our user agent as follows, right? -A, you can set your user agent string to whatever you want. There may be more examples down here, but let's say, I don't know why you would do this, but way back in the day, it was like if you were coming from a Mozilla browser, you may render something differently through your style sheet than if you were on an IE6 browser or something like that. So if you set up your website, and there's all kinds of plugins on changing your user agent string, you may actually get the page to render differently based on what's going on in the browser or what it thinks your browser is. Yeah, so I want to say there's a website for that. User agent strings browser. Yeah. So you get so like Samsung. So let's say you want this is the user agent string for a Samsung Galaxy S9 for its browser, web browser. So if you're trying to do things like fingerprinting things, like mobile Safari or what have you. There's a number of ones. I mean, and there's so many of them. I mean, I had a plugin on my browser here that I could go all the way back to like Chrome 67 or something like that, or I could make it look like an Opera browser or something like that. And it's just a way of maybe stress testing your website. Maybe it doesn't work with Opera, and you want your Edge browser to look like an Opera browser just to see what would happen for a user experience kind of thing. All right, dev tools. Finally, let's see how we can preview the HTTP headers using browser dev tools as we did in the previous section. Yep. Go to the network tab. Yeah, you're going to get that. It shows you all of these things. You can actually right-click. If this is, I believe in Edge or Chrome, you can right-click and edit and resend, so you can get all these things edited. You can edit all those things. There used to be an e-tag vulnerability as well, way back in the day. E-tag vulnerability. It was, that was one where it was always, so e-tag headers, entity tag header. Exactly. I mean, those are the fun ones where you're like, well, explain to me why that's an issue. And they tried to get you about, oh, you've got e-tags in your headers, that's not good or whatever. I've seen that a couple of times, and I was like, tell me why that's a bad thing. So yeah, that's an interesting discussion here on why this is not a vulnerability. It's pretty funny. 2003 1418. Yeah, those were the e-tag vulns. They're in that article further down if you want to go check that out. But yeah, that's how old they were. Yeah, Nessus returns this e-tag flag if it contains an inode. That's another way. I wouldn't say you would, that would be a good flag if somebody was just running Nessus on your system. But if you do get any e-tag stuff, it might be indicative of heavily automated testing, which is never a good thing. So yeah, they should never be putting inode vulnerability findings in your pen test reports. So it's just a way of knowing if you got a good or a bad pen test in this case. All right, so we'll click here to spawn the system. Server above loads the flag after the page is loaded. Okay. Use the network tab in the browser dev tools to see what requests are made by the page and find the request to the flag. All right. I'm going to refresh my screen here. That way I can get a full size screen. Okay, so I will, there we go, Control-Shift-V. Oh, wait, come on, man, there we go. All right, maybe the refresh screwed up my, we're trying something eventually. No, okay, so. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. It's never been this hard before. There we go. Recommended modules. Ooh, pretty. Well, we're not necessarily trying harder. We're just, yeah, like Scott said, yeah, we're trying harder. Yeah, we're making it more difficult. Is that a thing? I don't want to take screen. Oh, how does it? Okay. I wanted to inspect because that's how you can get to the stuff when you're futzing around here. Okay. So there is the web application. You saw when you highlighted over it, you get various things so you can see where you're locating. All right, so the answer to our question was server above loads the flag after the page is loaded. Use the network tab in the browser dev tools to see what requests are being made. Okay, so this one should be easy. I say should be easy. Oh, we have to reload the page. That's right. We have to hook into the system here. All right, so what we're going to be looking for is maybe, I think it's simpler than that. So we're going to click on that. Oh no, we got e-tags. That's a high. No, I'm just kidding. Let me see. Okay, this is where my mouse is starting to drag again, which is kind of annoying. But all right, so you can do. Remember how they said you can do raw output? If you wanted to do raw outputs, see what's going on there. Doesn't have all the fancy formatting and stuff. And we're supposed to be looking inside. Let's see, is it the request? No, it's a response. There we go. Okay, so it was in the headers. So, okay, that may not be the one we need. Oh, see, there's the flag there. My bad. Okay, so I wasn't looking down far enough. So let's see, scroll down here. So we ran script.js. Okay, so it's in script.js. So let's go see if we can see if there's anything inside the flags themselves. No, I don't see anything. Okay, so it's just this. This would be the flag right here, 327A bloggity bloggity blog. So I'm assuming it's that minus the text. That should be correct. Oh, incorrect answer. What requests are made by the page enter? Yeah, okay. So I didn't have the, all right. scroll up here. There's images. These are all different images, right? These are all various images. Okay. Okay. Script.js. There's the E tag. You'd think this would be it. I'm hoping it's maybe it's calling the entire thing. File name. Let's see, cookies. Let's go check the cookies here. Nope. 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 Oh, there it is. Okay, so the response. We got to so the flag wasn't what I would call a red herring, but what they wanted you to do was kind of look at everything. So the response is what you're wanting. So yeah, this one right here is what you're wanting. Yeah. It should have had HTTP on it. Yeah. Everybody's yelling at me there, I'm sure. So all right, so that's that, and then now we submit. There's right. It's okay. All right. I have a lot to read when I get back to work in 20 minutes. All right, so HTTP methods and codes. If you've been watching our Try Hack Me stuff that we did, this is going to be fairly quick. These are the methods you can use. Mostly it's going to be get and post, but like they said, you can send a head to get just, I believe they said just to get your response versus the full bit if you're doing verbose. You might do a put. You might try doing a put, and that just get, post, and put, and delete are all CRUD functions. So put allows you to put things onto the server. In this case, there's a subtle difference between post and put. Let me see. So post sends the data to the server, and put creates new resources on the server. Allowing this method without proper controls can lead to uploading malicious resources. So this can handle multiple types of input. The data is appended in the body request after the headers. The post method is commonly used when sending information, logins, and forms, or uploading data to a website. So post and put are similar, but they're not exactly the same, because they also mention in post that you can also upload data such as images or documents. But they also say allowing this method, you can put new resources on the server, so you can also put a file as well. Option patch. I have never seen patch being used. I'm sure that it is used somewhere. Track and trace used to be methods. I don't know if they've gotten rid of those, but yeah, trace and track were also a fairly trace, track, HTTP. Yeah. So this was also another one where if you get it in a pen test report, it's probably a automated test. But so yeah, these were the rewrite conditions here on that for older versions of Apache. Yeah, see, newer versions of Apache disable trace method natively via the trace enable directive. So, and then you can set it up in Nginx as well. Yeah, this was a fairly well-known, like, oh, this is a vulnerability that it was like I want to say low or medium. Yeah, see, you can, if you ever see, yeah, something like this where you see in your pen test report, the remote server supports the trace and or track methods. Trace and track are HTTP methods that are used to debug web server connections. You see that kind of output in your pen test report and you do a search, it will pop up almost immediately for that. Thanks to the good old Googs, you can go and yeah, see the first thing you start seeing is Tenable. Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to see those almost immediately. But yeah, I don't know anybody who uses track or trace. I'm sure if you wanted to, like they said, debug a web server connection, it will go deeper and understand that. Scott says, I think track and trace is usually an information disclosure issue like traceroute. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why they were considered like low. Onhail says, if it's that old, I bet you have some bigger issues instead. 100%. If you're still allowing those methods, yeah, that's definitely something. I mean, I would argue probably options doesn't need to be on. That can be disabled. I would also disable patch. If you don't need delete and put, I would also do the same thing there. There's they do say down here you might need put and delete for REST APIs, but you have to be real careful about what controls are in place for that. So yeah, see, most modern web applications, it's get and post. However, web applications utilize REST APIs also rely on put and delete. So yeah, especially if you're updating or making changes on a website that has tabulated data, or you're creating a new user or something like that, you're definitely going to be doing puts, because you might be putting data into a database. So, into your MySQL or your NoSQL or your Postgres or your, God forbid, your Oracle database. And then your response codes. 100 provides information, 200 when request succeeds, redirects are 300, improper requests from clients is 400, and then there's a problem with the server itself is 500 label. Some of the more well-known ones, 200, 302, 400, 404, 403, 404, yeah, and 500 internal server error. Yeah, and then of course Scott, has his awesome error code .cats or whatever. http.cat. That was good. I'll have to go back and look at the rest of them. Okay, so they go through the web requests. Whenever we visit any URL, browsers default to GET to obtain remote resources hosted at the URL. Once the browser receives the initial page, it may send other requests using other HTTP methods. This can be observed through the Network tab in the browser dev tools as seen in the previous section. Yeah, so this is why basic auth is bad. A lot of times you may have seen this in the olden days on like the GeoCities or something. Somebody be real cool and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna put something behind a secret area, and you can get into it." And a lot of times it was basic auth. So it's sent in clear text. You can try it as often as you like. Later on, there were other controls like deny hosts. Deny hosts is still good today if you're still not a fan. Deny hosts is an excellent application. You can, I wouldn't use SourceForge. There's got to be a newer version or something out there for this. But deny hosts can be used for if you notice too many authentication requests in your web server logs and you're using basic auth, you can actually block that IP address from continuing to use that. I'm not saying you should use basic auth on any website, but if it's something internal or something like that, yeah, you know what? I'm not even going to say that. You shouldn't even use basic auth anymore. So there you go. There's got to be better ways of authenticating something. So, but back in the day, deny hosts was always a good way of mitigating the, hey, I'm going to brute force attack this site. I mean, the credentials were still sent in plain text, but you could say, well, if I receive 5 login attempts in a minute or less than a minute, I'm going to block that from that IP address, or I'm going to blacklist that IP address for 24 hours or something like that. You might use it for an SSH honeypot as well. If you set up your SSH honeypot and somebody is, banging on your SSH server on a regular basis, you could blacklist that IP for a while as well. All right, let's try to access the page with curl. We'll add a -I to view the response headers. Do I want to type a city name? Oh, that's just an example. Okay. Control-I, server name, IP and port, authorization required, right? Server name, so it's running on an Ubuntu server 2441. Sometimes, just another thing about the server deal, because Ubuntu and those do backporting of patches, they will, it's usually like 2.4.41 P12 or something like that. So they use whatever version of Apache was there the day that their stuff shipped. They just patch that instead of updating it to 2.6 or 2.8 or whatever. So like the 2.4.41 P12 version that's in Ubuntu may be the equivalent of like 2.6.8.5 or some weird shit like that. doing vuln management was difficult like that because you had to explain that, backporting of patches was a thing that they did sometimes to people. So, sometimes you can say, well, 2.4.4.1 I know was an Ubuntu 16, so they're running an Ubuntu 16 box, for instance. Again, if they're smart and they change the server string, that doesn't really matter, but yeah, it's just another way of diagnosing and knowing which version of OS they're using, because if they're using that version, then there may be other vulnerabilities in that specific version of Ubuntu you could use to attempt to gain access, or local privesc, or what have you. Okay, as we see, we get access denied, right? You get an access denied because the basic realm in the www authentication header, which indeed confirms that this page is using basic HTTP auth, is discussed in the headers section. To provide the credentials through curl, we use the -u flag as shown. So the -u is user, and then the colon, anything after that is the password. And then there has to be a space. Ideally that's how that works. This time we do get the page in the response. There's another method we can provide HTTP auth credentials, which is directly through the URL as user :password @URL, as discussed in the first section, right? You can do that with HTTP URLs as well. Usually it's a non, or use your email, and when you're doing a non-FTP, which was way back in the day. There's still probably some sites out there that do it. Kind of like how curl does it right here. Might save you a little bit in encoding, or not encoding, but in scripting something up. That way you don't have to do a -i or something like that. We may also try visiting the same URL on a browser, and we should get authenticated as well. Exercise, try to review the response headers by adding -i to the above request. See how an authenticated response differs from an unauthenticated one. Okay. Well, I don't have an IP address or anything to do that on, so, but I mean, you can try it with other websites. Finding one that does basic auth, though, is going to be hard to find. If we add the -v to either one of our earlier curl commands, right? Trying server, whatever. Yeah. Mark bundle is not supporting multi-use. Yeah. If we're using basic auth, we see the request sets the authorization header to basic with a, looks like base 64 encoded. Yep, that's correct. Of admin. If we're using a modern method of authentication, like a JOT token, the authorization would be a type of bearer token and would no longer. Oh, by the way, so JWT is Java. JSON web tokens, my bad. JSON web tokens, but they, for some reason, I've heard it called JOT, J-O-T, like the W is an O. I don't know if that's the case, but the joint I used to work at before, that's what they would call them, JOT tokens. Authorization will be a bearer token that would contain a longer encrypted token. So yeah, the JOT tokens are JOT tokens. Encryption. There's a whole mess on this. It's like if you don't encrypt them right, or you can use different kinds of encryption. Yeah, so you get a big long method like that. Yes, I use Stack Overflow. Sue me. Yeah, so you see there's actually a specific format for this. So you see it's got a dot, and then there's another section. You see EYJ, you see a lot of the same, same EYJ, Z, and you see a lot of the same stuff here. But yeah, there's different bits there, and they have different RFCs. So signed, encrypted, signed, then encrypted, or encrypted then signed. So you can do JOT tokens any one of 4 ways: signed, encrypted, signed then encrypted, encrypted and signed. So whichever one you want to do. Don't ask me which one's the most secure. I'm assuming it's going to be signed then encrypted, but it is what it is. Oh, well, there you go. This order is highly recommended. Ding. So, all right. Web requests. All right, I got about 5 minutes left till I have my evening meeting here, 5 p.m. Pacific. So get parameters. You're gonna get parameters when you do a city search. You can search the term and get a list of meaningful cities. I'm supposed to be doing something here. It seems like I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, I can't type. Can I type a city? Okay, I cannot type a city. I don't know if that's a JavaScript thing. Okay, I don't have that. I don't have that unblocked. Continue and see what I get. You must be able to do something with this output. This is type of city name. All right, well, it is what it is. As our page returns results, it may be contacting a remote source to obtain information, then display them on the page. For something like Google Maps, you're going to see a lot of get functions, or you might see a lot of pipelining functions through the system. Yeah, Google Maps is going to be huge because you're pulling tons of data feeds, like business feeds, landmarks. I mean, numbers of databases to be able to pull all that stuff down. You're even going to pull down things like traffic or weather overlays or satellite overlays or Google Street View stuff. I mean, that Google Maps is super complicated. But of course, most of you all know that. So yeah, as our page returns results, maybe contact our remote source to obtain information, display them on the page. So they want you to hit reload because you have to hook up into the system. After that, we can enter search terms and hit enter, and we'll automatically notice a new request being sent to the backend, right? So you can right click and modify, right? You can change your requests and items. So yeah, let me see. Get requests, so server IP port, search. So we have our search parameter, which is LE. You've got a header file in there, authorization basic with the admin. So if you're looking for that, Leeds and Leicester. So you're doing a city search with basic auth, and it's going to look through a list of values that are there. So copied command will contain all the headers in the HTTP request. However, we can remove most of them and keep necessary authentication headers like authorization and cookie. Yeah, you don't necessarily need all of these things. The server might ask for them, but there might be a way to get around them too. All right. I think I'm going to have to stop here. It shouldn't be too difficult to go through this if you're going through the HTTP portion. Try to authenticate with user admin and password admin. That's using the basic auth. If you go back up here, you can see the base 64 encoded value for admin. I'll probably run through this tomorrow. You get two boxes if you 2 box bits if you can get this one right. I'll probably run through this during my meeting because I'm not sure who's driving this meeting. I know it's not me, but I'll have another half hour or so to go through this, and I can go back through and show what I did to get this answer if everybody's interested. But hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope some people have learned something. I mean, I learned a couple things about it's interesting to go back and understand the basics because there are some things you tend to just gloss over because you're like, oh, it's always the same. It doesn't look any different. If I knew it looked different, then I would, I would question it. But it's like the e-tag stuff, or it's interesting to question and see those things and understand some of the whys, which is why the RFCs are available. When you understand the wheres and the whys and then the hows and stuff. So double check, make sure. Okay, good. Cool. Hope everyone has a good rest of their day. I will be back on tomorrow. If you have a chance, Mick Douglas, our talk with him went about an hour and a half last night. We talked about everything under the sun, including Okta, not including this new stuff that just came out today with the timeline information. But we talk about a lot of stuff. Why we InfoSecians have a we create our dogmas, or we have our camps that we like to live in, and our cliquey stuff. I mean, we talk about a number of different things. It's kind of eye-opening. He comes from a place of defense and not offense, and definitely want to take the time and take a listen to that if you can, and send us some feedback if that's if those are things that are not interesting to you. Please let us know, and we'd love to work with you to find other speakers, or you yourself might come and want to speak. So yeah, we appreciate the patronage. We appreciate any bits or follows. I'd like to thank Mr. Minus for following us. I know we talked about him last night. Martin Blank, Riff, Netter28. And yeah, so thanks to all of our new followers. And yeah, hope everyone has a good rest of their day. And we'll talk again tomorrow. Have a good night.